Yeah. Do you follow what's worked in the past and just get ever more mundane, but obviously successful based on the data, or do you try and lead in a different direction? And God, let's not all just have the same boring labels that hit the same points. You've got to have something unique. Essentially, you've got to use that label to tell your story, and your story should be unique. And if you're making a good wine, you should have a good story.
Hi guys, this is Sid Patel, CEO of London Wine Competition, London Beer Competition and London Spirits Competition. We are live in London, day 2 at the London Wine Competition. I have here Beans Boughton. He's a master of wine based in England, and we're going to chat about the importance of packaging, and especially, it raised my eyebrows, and I appreciate it when a master of wine still emphasizes on the packaging, and that says a lot, and I do appreciate that, because I think that is something which no matter how much quality, no matter how much value, but packaging is something that we first buy with. So let's lead the conversation from there. How do you see packaging? What is a good definition of a packaging? What's the perception? Let's just start from your packaging definitions.
Absolutely. One thing you said there, quality is paramount. Let's get that out there. Quality is paramount, but in terms of engaging a consumer, packaging is the gateway to that, and so packaging is so important to get that shelf presence, to get the confidence from the consumer, and even at a more sort of base psychological level, to give you the cues, the clues to your experience that's going to happen when you drink the wine. There's a Professor Barry Smith, who's done some amazing research on cues to experience based on how the wine is described or what's on the label, and he's done a whole host of tastings with regular punters and masters of wine and all sorts of people to see what a label can do in terms of what you're going to experience. And there, whether you've got a sort of a citrus profile on the label, will you find a citrus profile in a neutral wine, things like that. So you've got this opportunity for cues to experience. You've got the cues to quality on there, so some texture, some high quality label, and packaging all around can give you a cue to what you're going to get. And we all know how open we are when we're on holiday, and we are ready to enjoy the simplest of wines and to find them as fulfilling as you possibly can do, because we're really open, and everything about us is open because we're relaxed and we're on holiday. And so what packaging can do is try and capture some essence of that, try and access some parts of you that you might keep more closed, and therefore why not invest time and consideration in the right packaging with the right cues to experience and quality to deliver that.
I think one of the things that sounds interesting to me is, when we say typicity, like a Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand should taste like a Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand. Now, if we add another thing like a packaging from New Zealand and a Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand should look like that. The problem is some big brands have created that packaging perceptions right now.
Good question.
What can we do to do we stick with that and make another nice greenish clean white label, or shall we play with other angles?
Do you follow what's worked in the past and just get ever more mundane, but obviously successful based on the data, or do you try and lead in a different direction? And God, let's not all just have the same boring labels that hit the same points. You've got to have something unique. Essentially, you've got to use that label to tell your story, and your story should be unique. And if you're making a good wine, you should have a good story. But if you're making a really entry-level wine where the story is just about the region, then maybe your packaging can be a little bit more generic, because again, it's about targeting that consumer, and the packaging for a wine that's for type A consumer and packaging for wine that's for type Z consumer is going to be quite different. So you work out your price point, you work out your target market, you work out whether you're going to be on the shelf of a multiple grocer or an independent, and then you can tailor it suitably. So a lot of people have different packaging for the same wine in different channels because you've got to tailor it to that consumer's expectations. And yeah, we shouldn't be generic and boring, but at the same time, for the very entry level, there is something to say about having a wine that delivers what people's expectations are. But yeah, try and have something that's a little bit different, but don't do different for different sake. I think it's about something that captures the essence of the wine. And that's what you should do all the way through. Those cues to quality, those cues to taste experience should be about capturing what you've got within the wine and trying to broadcast that. So your packaging is your voice before the cork has been opened, before the cap's been pulled.
Let's say about our competition here, right? So we evaluate by quality, value, and package. Now, how do you see, this as a value to the entrant, at least in getting some feedback on how can they use back, even if it's just from the less number of people, right? But at least they know that something, I got great on quality, I did amazing on value, but just because of packaging, I would have spoiled my score. Is there anything they can take and go back and try to ask 10 more people?
Yeah, and again, that's something that I think that is interesting about this competition, where you do have packaging as part of it, and therefore you do allow that feedback. And I'm sure everyone who's got a marketing department tries to gain that feedback from consumer groups in one way or another. But again, here you've got people who are at the forefront of service from the sommelier perspective, or buyers who should have a grasp of what the consumer is after. And therefore our feedback should be quite valuable and informative. And so I've had wines that I know that I love, but actually when I put them up against the competition, I give them a pretty mediocre score. And potentially they don't need to shine because they are at an exceptional price point, but we're in a competitive world where actually sometimes you do still want to resonate on every single level. So therefore that feedback can be relevant and can be important.
Imagine that if you were to be hired as a consultant to a winery, they say, all right, Beans, please come, here's our 10 labels, have a look and prepare a report for us. What kind of things come to your mind? What would you do? What would be your game plan to evaluate and review where they currently stand for their packaging?
Firstly, it goes beyond label. So you've got to have the right bottle shape. You've got to be thinking these days in terms of sustainability. You've got to be thinking about the recyclable content of your bottle, the weight of your bottle, the distance from your bottling line or your label producer or your screw cap producer to your winery. So you've got to think way beyond the simplistic viewpoint. Then, yes, you get to texture and feel and the glue. You've got to look at your capsule, whether that's branded or not. I think it's all too simple to simply go, right, if I took a snapshot of this label and I put it on a presentation or a menu or a website, would that be enough? But I think a lot of the wines we look at, there's an incredible array of quality in terms of the finish to the capsules, whether they're sparkling or whether they're a screw cap, whether they're uniquely branded or generic, whether the label is textured or has something unique about it. So absolutely, you have to take a step back, look at the whole packaging piece, and then go step by step through the journey that the consumer would have throughout the range in terms of quality, through the story that you want to tell about each wine, and therefore, as a consultant, you don't want to give away any simple questions. You want somebody to invest in you and to really give you your knowledge, and I think there's a lot of people out there with incredible experience that can do that. And you have to go a lot deeper than just the label. The packaging is the voice. It is the way of broadcasting and communicating what's inside the bottle to the average consumer, and that is the most important thing to get right through the whole package and not just a label.
And any trends particularly you've noticed, in packaging coming out that is working at the supermarket level? I mean, the store levels at least, the retail level.
I think at every level, sustainability is the key, and you can be talking about £100+
Like
a
people
bottle.
are responding to that.
Yeah, and if you're at the ultra premium end, the fine wine end, the investment market end, you want wines that have inks that are biodegradable, that use the right glues, that use the right papers, and again, right at the entry level for wines that are 90 cents a bottle, ex-cellar, you want to be sure that they're lightweighting where possible, that they're thinking sensibly about who's providing them with their bottles and the distances that they have to travel, and again, where possible, using recyclable items and things like that. So I think sustainability is a massive issue, and one I'm trying to get more of a grip on. I think we're all still on a journey, no matter how deep we're going. The company I work for at the moment is on a massive drive for sustainability, and has been for a long time, and we're still learning as a team every day. But I think that's probably trend one, and then beyond that,
like in terms of sizes, or in terms of the type of the package, or something new that's just booming right now.
I think, again, depending on the segment, the category and the space, you look at PET bottles for festivals, you look at smaller formats and cans for train journeys home, you look at bag and box for by the glass, and it's all, again, wrapped in a sort of veil of sustainability and value to the consumer, and convenience. And that's probably it. It's convenience matched with a feeling of doing the right thing. That's probably the main driver of the trends at the moment.
I think I love what you said. Do you provide, like as you said, I heard in the consulting side, just for the audience, if you do, because I'm sure it looks like you can go deeper, much beyond this. Where can they find you? And if between the brands and you, just throw us your LinkedIn or your website or your email, and they can just reach out to you.
From a sustainability perspective, there are people way beyond me that I'd happily connect anyone with. But in terms of export marketing, in terms of how to look at channels and how to view a segmented consumer base, then happy to talk to anybody. And that would be through LinkedIn is probably the best place, I think that's sensible, or through the Beverage Network.
Great.